So thank you very much for the invitation to beautiful Bologna in Italy. I'm here to talk about Spotify, staying lean from a small startup through rapid growth. And it seems that most of you are aware what Spotify does. It's a music streaming service. And we want to bring the right music for every moment and actually change the world through music. And we're pretty big right now. We're over 40 million active users, over 10 million paying subscribers, over 20 million songs. And we have 1.5 billion playlists created at Spotify. Each day, 5 million playlists are created or updated every day. And do you care to guess how many record labels we have deals with? How many record labels do you think we have deals with? 50? 150? Zero always comes up for some reason. No piracy. We actually have contracts with the record labels. It's 300,000 record labels. So that shows how much effort has gone into doing a lot of deals with these record labels. When our two founders started the company several years ago, it's like 6 years ago today, I think, they say that the first 2 years they spent living on an airplane, going around the world, talking to record labels, trying to get their idea that have a free music streaming service, ad-supported, and they said there's no way that's ever going to happen. Until 2 years later, it actually happened. Because the record labels thought, well, Sweden is basically a dead market, because Sweden has the best internet infrastructure in the world, and we're known for Pirate Bay. I don't know if you know about that, where you can illegally download. So it was basically a lost market. So the record labels allowed us to experiment, and the rest is history, as they say. We're now available in 56 countries, not counting small markets such as San Marino, Liechtenstein, the Vatican, etc. Then it's even more, but whoever counts those, right? We're growing really, really fast. In January 2010, we had 30 engineers working out of Stockholm, which is still our headquarters in Stockholm, Sweden. Spotify is a Swedish company, in case you didn't know. And today, we're, well, more than 300 people in Stockholm, about 30 in Gothenburg. We're so big in Stockholm, actually Gothenburg got pushed out to the UK, it seems, in the map, but it's in Gothenburg. 200 in New York and about 10 people in San Francisco. We have 4 development offices in the world. And that's some crazy growth. It's 20 times we've grown in 4 years, basically. So why do we do that? We don't just want to grow for growth itself. We want to have a development speed that scales. We have so many things we want to do to change the world with music. We have so many features, so many ideas, and we need a lot of people to actually be able to accomplish that. So the challenge is, how can we actually keep growing but still stay lean and be able to produce lots of good software? And we believe that the key for us is autonomy. It's about hiring the right people and not getting out of the way, but do our best to support them in doing a really, really great job. And we think that the best way to leverage their greatness is to let them use that greatness to make their own decisions, which means we don't have to. We can move faster because people can make decisions on the level where it actually needs to be done. We don't have to wait for committees or managers or handoffs and so on, but we can move really fast. And at the center of this autonomous organization is what we call the autonomous squad. A squad is basically a team that's 5 to 7 engineers, often less than 10. It should feel like a mini startup. It should be self-organizing and cross-functional. Everyone that's needed to bring an idea to live in the production should be on the squad. And you can say that Spotify is like an incubator for lots of mini startups. where each squad is end-to-end responsible for a mission. And example missions are, if you look at the client, we have, this is a starting page at Spotify. It's actually a little bit outdated, this picture. If you use Spotify, you'll know. But we have a squad. Their mission is to build the best start page possible. And within that mission, they do the design, they come up with the ideas, they maintain the software, they deploy it, they are on call if something breaks, and so on. Another example is the playback squad, responsible for the playback feature. We have an iOS squad that's responsible for the iOS container, making it easy for all the other squads at the company to deploy things on iOS. And this is the search squad, and it shows that if search wants to build a new search feature or change the way that search works, they need to have all the people on their squad to do it on iOS, to do it on the desktop client, to do it on the web client, to do it on the Android client. They don't hand off that to other squads, but they own everything that has to do with that. And our office in Sweden and in Stockholm, the two big offices, they are built to support this autonomous squad. We have teams sit co-located, really close to each other. And this spider web thing actually cuts the squad off a little bit, so it's not so easy to go and just in and disturb them, but still makes them accessible. I thought it was just some fancy design when I first saw it, but it really works to make it accessible but still closed off. Every squad has their own lounge where they can do impromptu meetings or retrospectives, plannings. They shouldn't need to book a room in order to just have a meeting. There's a small huddle room where you can have small meetings or one-on-ones or phone calls. And almost all the walls are whiteboard, so you can just do design sketches or whatever on the wall. There's equipment set up, so you just plug it in and can show things or have a demo. Everything to make sure that you're not blocked or don't have to wait or book rooms and so on. And the rooms are not big, no bigger than that 10 people can fit in them. So we try to physically force teams to be small. If they want to be bigger, that's going to be something of a challenge, and they have to move to an area that's not as well equipped for squad work and so on. But we have lots of big open spaces where people can meet and collaborate as well. So we often get the question, what do you use at Spotify? Scrum, XP, Kanban, Safe? And the answer to that question is yes. Because part of being autonomous is that you have to have a process that fits your team. So depending on which squad you ask, they're using Scrum or Kanban or whatever. And we used to be a Scrum shop initially, or initially actually we were like every startup, just cowboy coding, ad hoc, doing nothing. We grew a little bit. Some people said, if we don't get more structured, I will quit. So we had some Scrum guy come in for half a day. That was before I joined, by the way. Okay, now we got this, half a day, great, let's do it. And inferred a lot of rules and Scrum, and this is how you're going to do it. If when you estimate, you're going to use this formula and this kind of. And then it suddenly got too much process. And then other people said, if we continue like this, I'm going to quit. So the pendulum had swung too far. So we slowly realized that Agile is actually more than Scrum, and the principles are more important than the practices. And when almost a year ago, I went around and talked to 35 of our squads. We're about 60 squads now. And asked them, what kind of method would you say that you are using? Kanban or Scrum? Some smart-ass engineers said, yes. That's like... as you can see, pretty few said that they're using Scrum. Most of them said Kanban. I have a column here that's called Kanbanesque, and that's like, I'm not really sure, but Kanban. some even said that, well, since it's you that's asking, I say I don't know. To everyone else, I say Kanban. But so they were probably aware that they weren't really doing it the right way, so to speak. And then we had other. It's like, I'm not sure what we're doing, but we're probably a bad example for the whole company. So. And 1 month later, that squad didn't exist no more. So, so we take the autonomous squad pretty seriously, and we have a definition, a charter kind of, and we set up to people so they will understand what do we mean with an autonomous squad. You should have a dedicated product owner. The product owner sits with the team, is considered a member of the team, the squad. They work with just that squad, no other squads. And in 95% of the cases, I'd say that's true. You have a dedicated on-site product owner who is approachable and in all meetings and all stand-ups and so on. You should have an agile coach. So instead, we used to call that Scrum Master, but we changed to agile coach because the role of the coach is to help the team find a process that fits, not to tell them how they should be doing agile or Scrum. So we said that servant leadership is more important than being a master. A squad should be able to influence their work. If you're not in control of the work you're doing, if you get handed work by other parts of the organization or the product manager, or if the product owner is too dominant, we're doing something wrong. You should own that together. It should be easy to release, easy to get stuff live. If you can't do that by yourself, you need help. Process that fits the team, we already discussed, the mission as well. And you should also have organizational support. You should have upper management coming to you proactively, asking how can we support you, how can we help you. You should know where to go with all your questions and problems. And we actually do surveys quarterly or 2 times a year with all the squads where they self-assess. We say this is what you could be doing, what we think that you should, your rights, so to speak. If you say that, okay, we know that we suck in easy to release, but we don't think that's a big problem for us right now. You don't have to do anything about it. It's up to you as a squad. But we constantly survey this just to show that this is what you should be doing if you don't have a big reason not to. And we actually put that together and look at patterns in the organization and see, is there anything we can do from a management perspective or changes in the organization that we can actually see a pattern? There seems to be, well, we have red here. That at the time, this was the New York office. They had very few agile coaches. And even though everyone knew that, actually gathering the data, showing it like this, it creates a bigger sense of urgency that you need to address it. So that's a little bit about how we're structured on the squad level. But even though autonomy is really, really important to us, we're still one company. We still have one product, one service in our users' view. So the question is, how do we align ourselves? How do we make sure that Spotify's mission is bigger than the squad's mission, so you don't sub-optimize? How can we make sure that as we grow, that squads don't get left alone in their small corner of the company, but that we actually learn from each other, that we can collaborate, that we don't reinvent the wheel, that we can consolidate and spread good practices and good way of working. And how can we make sure that we can align so we can work together towards a big goal and create good things together and not sub-optimize. And that's what the rest of this talk will be about. So the first thing is that except being a member of a squad, you're also a member of a chapter. Every engineer is also a member of a chapter. And a chapter is a special interest group. So if you're a web developer, you're in a web development chapter. If you're an agile coach, you're in an agile coach chapter. QA chapter, backend development chapter, data engineer chapter. We have lots of different chapters. And the point of the chapter is to share good ways of working, see opportunities to consolidate, teach each other things, and constantly improve. And also, one of the chapter members is the chapter lead. He leads the chapter, which means that he is or she is also your manager, your closest manager. It's the chapter lead that hires and fires people. And the chapter lead is exactly like you, an active engineer. So if you're a web developer, your chapter lead and manager is also a web developer who spends about 50% of his or her time on management things, which could be, it's mainly about your personal growth. So they can mentor people through pair programming with them, make sure that you have another mentor, make sure that you have access to the training or the resources you need in order to develop. And usually they have one-on-ones every week with all of their direct reports. And because you're a chapter lead over for several web developers, for example, that means that in a squad, you will typically have a few web developers, a few backend developers, some QA, an agile coach, and all of them will have different managers. And sometimes there will be, your manager will be in the same squad. Sometimes there will be 3 managers in the same squad. And this makes it really clear that the chapter lead is not a team lead. It's the individuals and the squad that are together responsible for the squad. We don't have a leader in the squad like that. And that's by design. Okay, so on a higher level, we have tribes. All chapters and squads are part of tribes. And the tribe is led by, oh, sorry. Oops, something wrong. So the tribes are big support organizations. We have about 7 tribes right now that gathers all the squads and chapters. And they gather squads and chapters that have a common mission. So this, for example, is the music player tribe. They have a mission to provide fast and reliable access to all the world's music. This is the infrastructure tribe. Enable high product development speed while maintaining a highly available service. And the tribe is led by a tribe lead. That's that guy, who has a tribe management team together with all the chapter leads in that tribe and the agile coaches generally. Is the management team. And they are a support organization for the squads and the chapters. That's their only role. They don't tell the squads what to do or how they should be doing things. They support them. They make sure that physical equipment and budgets are taken care of, that information, infrastructure, and other things are provided. They make sure that they have all the organizational support that they need to be effective. And sorry, something wrong with this picture. Yeah, so that's the role of the tribe, basically. And within the tribe, you have tribe gatherings, demos, and so on. And the size of the tribe is never bigger than 120, 130 people, which comes from something called the Dunbar number, an anthropologist whose research showed that beyond, well, it varies the exact number, different studies, but beyond something like 150 people, it's very hard to form meaningful social connections with everyone. So that's what we try to do. With the tribes, we want you to have a meaningful context, that most of the people you have daily business with should be in the same tribe as you. You should know who to go and talk to. Before we had the tribes and started growing very, very big, you no longer had a name to the faces you met. You didn't really know who to go to when you were stuck or you had a dependency that you needed taken care of. So that was the main goal of the tribes. But the tribes are kind of network organizations. You don't have to go up and talk to your manager who will talk to the manager of another tribe and who will then talk to his squads, because there are no real managers in that hierarchy. They are all only support functions. So if you have to work with a squad in another tribe, you just do that. They are soft boundaries. So collaborations between different squads in different tribes just pop up and then cease to exist. There's no need to go through the hierarchy to use it. Something we've been doing a lot recently is embedding in other squads, which seems to be a really successful way. So basically, one guy from this squad who needs something from this squad, he goes to work with them from a few days to a couple of months. And then they form a really, really good relationship. They exchange knowledge, and that he will go back to his squad with lots of knowledge and relationships so they can work effectively together in the future. One important thing also with the tribes was to try to do away with the dependencies, as I said, or to put all dependencies within the tribes. And we actually, like with many other organizational changes we do, we try to measure this. So we looked at before and after the tribes, how many dependencies do you have? And which squads do you have dependencies to? What's the nature of the dependency? And the hope was that dependencies would be fewer or contained within the tribe. But it turned out that wasn't the case. So we started looking at the dependencies, and it turned out that some of the dependencies, people said, it's not a problem. It's a good dependency. And then we call it a collaboration. And it's only when a dependency is bad or a collaboration is not existent that we say it's a dependency. And with that knowledge, we try to change the tribes and change the way of working so we can turn bad dependencies into good collaborations. Embedding is one of the examples that I mentioned. And a lot of people that are new to Spotify are amazed at that they can't understand where decisions are made. What people are in charge of this decision? Where's the meeting I can go to understand where this is decided? Yeah, I don't know. It just happens. It will just be decided, and people say, "Oh, this is chaos. Nothing is working." But when you've been around for a while, you realize that actually structure happens when it needs to. Just because we don't have structure, structures can emerge when they are needed, and then they disappear when they're not needed. And people constantly evaluate all these structures to see, do we need to keep doing this? One example is Scrum of Scrums, which is a typical thing that you do in an organization. So you would probably say that, okay, because all of the squads in this tribe have some kind of connection, we should probably have a representative go to a meeting every week and coordinate stuff. No, we don't want that. That will just be a busy work. It will be status reporting, and we're not sure that we need to. But when we do work together, this example, when we built our web player, 3 squads actually needed to be communicating. They realized that pretty quickly. And then they just set up a meeting. Let's do a daily stand-up. Everyone that has anything to do with this, we will invite. And let's keep track on what dependencies or blockers we have. It emerges from within the squads and the individuals themselves. There's no project organization. There are no management structures that say, now you need to set up a meeting or anything like that. And we believe that community is more important than structure. I think this is a really good picture from the Valve employee handbook, another very autonomous company. Methods to find out what is going on. You can talk to someone in a meeting, you can talk to someone in the elevator, you can talk to someone in the kitchen, talk to someone in the bathroom. All methods are good, and things are being communicated through these channels. We realized also when we did the tribes, and as we became bigger, that there's probably a good idea to keep all the web developers in the world exchanging ideas and talking to each other, not just within the tribes. I forgot to mention that each chapter is actually just never more than 10 people. So you're never a manager for more than 10 people. And that means if you have lots of web developers in a tribe, you will have several web development chapters. And you will have web development chapters in one tribe and in the other tribe and so on. So where can we all meet and exchange ideas on a global level, so to speak? And that's where we invented the guilds. So by default, all web developers are part of the web development guild. We realized pretty quickly that why lock it into a role? We're talking about people should not be locked in roles, but rather go beyond the role. So we changed it to opt in and opt out. So I'm part of the Agile Coach Guild, or the Agile Guild it's called, the QA Guild, for instance. And soon new guilds just started popping up. People took initiatives to start let's have a continuous deployment guild to share experience in continuous deployment, so that those who are really doing great things can help those who are struggling, and so on. We have an A/B testing guild, we have a leadership guild, we have lots of guilds that I'm not even aware of. And a guild can be anything from a mailing list with low traffic until something more is needed, then it happens. Or it can be that some of the, especially the main guilds like the web development, the backend guild, the data engineering guild, they have unconferences, maybe 1 or 2 times every year. So everyone flies into New York or Stockholm in that guild and meet for a whole day, where you do lightning talks in the beginning of the day and then open space, where you just put up a wall with a schedule and everyone can just put their topics up. And people come to these places and they say, oh, I had no idea 7 other people were interested in how to use this obscure framework for TDD and on JavaScript. So now I have friends for life, and relationships are established that will live for a very long time. And it's been a very, very popular form. Of course, there's some partying as well, which increases the popularity. So, alignment versus autonomy, as I mentioned, is, of course, a challenge. And it's easy and tempting to think of these as opposites on a scale. So on the one hand, we have do what I say, that's alignment. On the other, do whatever. But we want to believe that this is a false dichotomy. And actually, alignment enables autonomy. And this is thoughts that have been developed by Stephen Bungay. You can recommend his Art of Action. Is it? So over here, we have low alignment and low autonomy. Then we have a micromanaging organization and a very indifferent culture. Up here, we have high alignment and low autonomy. So basically, we have a manager or management that says, we need to cross the river, build a bridge. Authoritative organization, conformist culture. Over here, we have high alignment and high autonomy. Management says, we need to cross the river. You figure out how. That's an innovative organization with a collaborative culture. Down here, we have an entrepreneurial organization, but a very chaotic culture. High autonomy, but very low alignment. Maybe the management says, hope someone is working on the bridge problem. On the river problem, sorry. Who knows? If we're lucky. So what do we do to encourage this alignment? Well, we work with a very, very clear vision. We have a town hall every 3 weeks where our CEO and founder, Daniel Ek, gets on stage in front of all the employees, the video conferencing, and everyone is actively participating. And we talk a lot about what's our strategy, what do we want to do next, where are we going, where are we headed, what's important right now. And at the end of each town hall, every C-level people, CTO, CFO, CPO, Chief Product Officer, and so on, enters the stage, and anyone can ask any question to them. And they make a point of being very, very available and very transparent. So we don't have that many secrets at Spotify. Things that are really, really secret outside of Spotify and that we really don't want our competitors to know about, we share openly and early inside of Spotify. Of course, it's very difficult to me to say that we don't keep secrets at Spotify, because how do I know? I mean, if people keep secrets, I wouldn't know, right? But I don't think we do. I think we're highly transparent. And it's also great, I believe, to have our CEO stand on stage in front of all employees and talk about the importance of simplicity, focus, and transparency. Values that I think are really important. And we also use OKRs. It's something that's, I think, pioneered by Intel and used also by Google. I don't know if that's good or bad. but we use them for good and bad. It means objectives and key results. So every quarter, we have a company objective. It could be, well, when we did our Facebook integration a few years back, that was for at least one quarter. That was the main company objective. And then it's broken down to individual people. What does the company objective mean to me, and how can I let that influence my quarterly targets, which are the key results? So while the objective can be more visionary and long-term, the key results are measurable and short-term. But it also works bottom-up. So the objective is informed by people on a lower level, so to speak, in a mutual conversation. And not everyone has an OKR, actually. The engineers don't. They have squad OKRs together with the product owner, who is considered part of the squad. We don't want to have individual key results on that level. Yeah, and that's basically the way we have to try to steer what the direction we want to take. And we actually have, compared to many other big companies that I've worked with or talked to, there's often a process that says, if we have the funding, we will start a project or an initiative, no matter what capacity we have. We have the money. You just figure out how to make it work in IT department. It started. We've funded it. But we don't have budgets like that. We don't have projects like that. So we rather have a kind of a natural WIP limit, I would say, in the number of squads that we have and what their mission is. If we, from a top level, want to invest heavily in an area, we just have to look at, okay, what squads need to be involved? We have to talk to them. If they have other things they also want to do, something will have to go, or we have to adjust what the objective will be. We don't just start things and push it down to the squads. Well, we do, but not to the extent that many others do, I would say. Another important thing for alignment is the product organization. And it's still not that big. Well, it's pretty big, but it's still not bigger than that they actually just have one product organization. We've recently started to divide it softly into 4 product areas, but a lot of alignment is being done in the product organization. So every product owner sends a check-in email every Sunday, Friday, of course, because who works on a Sunday, right? And where they say, okay, this is what we're releasing this week, this is what we released the last week. We have something called stepping stones. So if we have to supply things to another squad for them to be able to fulfill their goals, it's called stepping stones. And every time there's a risk for a stepping stone not being there in time, we address that in these check-in mails. And they are sent to the entire staff of the company. It's fully transparent. There's actually also a guy who is summarizing all of it into a document and sending that out every Monday morning. And product has product days every quarter where they get together. Everyone from the whole world flies to New York or Stockholm, and they get together for 3 days to discuss what did we do the last quarter, what do we want to do the next quarter. Maybe use the 3rd day for continuous improvement work or some long-term strategy thinking. We also have the same on the management, upper management level, strategy days. 3 days every quarter where top management and the tribe leads and other people go to these strategy days to talk about strategy. So we put a lot of time and effort and people into talking about strategy, vision, sharing it, spreading it, fully transparent. Where do we want to go? What do we want to do? Sometimes, of course, we do big projects, which creates alignment and creates relationships between the squads that are working together. But it's important to understand that when we say a big project, we talk about maybe 3 to 5 squads, no more than 10 members in each, working together for 3 to 6 months and then they're done. So by any other standards, it's a really small project, but that's what we call a big project. And we've had some trouble getting that to work. So the things we actually developed over time a model that I'm not going to go into today. But if you want to read more about it, here's a link to a document. Henrik Kniberg actually summarized a much longer internal document into one that we could publish externally. And I think it's part of Tom and Mary Poppendick, Lean Software Development authors, their latest book. But we do big retrospectives after every big project. We maybe do 1 or 2 a year. And then we fly in everyone that was part of it. It's maybe, or representatives of all the squads at least, several representatives from each squad. This one we did maybe, oh, this is a post-mortem. This is a retrospective. 50 or 60 people for a full day, which shows that we really think it's important that we learn from what we're doing and can build upon that. And things that we've come to through this retrospective is that as guidelines for big projects is, 1, don't do big projects, because if we can avoid it, we should. Number 2 is that we should integrate really frequently. And number 3 is that we should coordinate daily. So one of the last successful ones, we had a meeting every day with video conferences. Everyone in the project, like 75 people, engineers, everyone was invited. Usually not everyone participated, but there were always representatives. We had a big demo in New York. So we actually put together the marketing department, product, and our CEO, a script. This is what the demo will be like. And then we ran a demo every week. And okay, this is not done, this is not done, this will have to go, this we have to change this, and use that script as a kind of a target or demo thing and the integration point. And when we actually demoed, it had changed a lot from the original version. But we could always keep a really close check on what are we able to deliver. And except when we have these big projects with big demos that we have publicly committed to, we have a saying that we deliver on quality, not on time, which can be really good for quality, of course, but frustrating for business development and our partners at times. But that's an important constraint to remember that we have. So, I don't know, maybe I should have had audio. I want to show this short video.
Okay, then Warren's going to catch you. Okay, it's called the trust fall. Okay, trust fall. Ready, set, go.
Yeah, well, it's a really great clip. I guess it can be used to illustrate lots of different points, communication or whatever. And this time I want to illustrate trust and the importance of trust. We believe that for Agile to work, or for get the best out of Agile, or to use Agile to get the best out of people, you need to really trust people. And Agile at scale requires trust at scale. And it can seem scary at times that we would trust people. But we think that when you give them freedom to create without fear of failure, good things will happen. And why would we hire people in the first place if we wouldn't trust them? And we believe that trust is greater than control. So we want to build a culture with no politics and no fear, because where there's fear of failing, people won't try and experiment and risk things. So we try to build a culture of failure recovery rather than failure avoidance. Failure avoidance, for instance, would be to keep a baby safe. You can have it in the crib. It will be safe. It won't discover much. Or you can have it crawling around, exploring. maybe it will hurt itself, but usually it's not lethal, hopefully. You can also do as I have done. I have 4 kids, so you can hedge your bets, kind of. If something happens, you still have some kids. Oh, sorry, just kidding. So one way of how we're doing this is to have a limited blast radius via decoupled architecture. So we try to make sure that if this piece blows up, it doesn't affect the rest. If this stops working, it doesn't affect anything else. And because we have different squads responsible for these different parts, they will immediately get on it and have all the knowledge and tools needed to fix it. It's not handed over to anyone else. And we also try to do it via a gradual rollout. So we roll out to a small percentage of users at a time and check. And if something breaks, we can quickly roll it back. And this makes it possible to actually take some bigger risks in trying and experimenting with things, because we know that we can quickly turn it back. And even just a small percentage of our users is still a really, really big test group. So it's like Mario Andretti puts it: if everything's under control, you're going too slow. I don't know, you maybe know him, Italian, but American. Yeah. And another way that we really have a trust culture is that we celebrate failure. Several teams have their fail walls where they publicly post, this is a mistake we did and this is what we learned from it. Our CTO, or this is another engineering team, they write a blog post on how we shot ourselves in the foot. Our CTO writes a blog post called Celebrate Failure, and so on. So we really, really talk a lot about these things. And a few months ago, we actually had our HR department, they did interviews with our CEO and lots of other people, asking about what's a big mistake that you've done, and what did you learn from it? And then we show that to all employees, we spread it internally, we use it in our introduction days and so on. So we spend a lot of time actually modeling that behavior from a top management perspective. And to help create this culture, we have roles dedicated to culture and improvement. We have people operations, and that's a special kind of HR function within technology. Their mission is to acquire and retain the best engineers in the world. And they work together with Agile coaches. We have an Agile coach group that gets together and works on global improvements. We have about 25 Agile coaches in the company right now. Some of them working in the people operations department, focusing mainly on organization-wide improvement and making sure those initiatives are kept going. And this is one example of how important we think that it is with motivated employees. This is our head of people operations sent out an email. Hi everyone, our employee satisfaction survey says 91% enjoy working here and 4% don't enjoy it here. That's great numbers by any standard. But he goes on. This is of course not satisfactory. We want to fix it. If you're one of those unhappy 4%, please contact us. We're here for your sake and nothing else. Half a year later, when we did the same survey, we had 95% satisfaction. It increased by 4%. So we're really, really adamant about fixing these things. Also, this is a blog post by our CTO, how Agile coaches make us win. And it shows the great importance and emphasis we not just put on Agile coaches, but on improvement work. If you remember from Håkan's session earlier, are you too busy to improve? We really try to, from top level, say we need slack. We need to be thinking about how to continuously improve. It has the greatest support from management. Of course, we're not without challenges. We scale like crazy. We have, as I said, 1.5 billion playlists. It comes with a lot of challenges, technical challenges. When growing so fast, how can we keep the stable teams that we think is beneficial for high performance when people are just coming into the organization all the time? And how can we keep the culture that we're so proud of and that we really want to cultivate when there are so many new people coming all the time? Yesterday's brilliant solution is, of course, tomorrow's problem. How can we, with the distributed location we have offices in New York, San Francisco, Stockholm, Gothenburg, how can we collaborate over these geographical and time zone differences? And lots of other stuff. If you would go into our company and do a kind of an agile adoption survey and see how far we've come with tech practices so far, you'd be surprised that we don't do that much TDD, pair programming, continuous integration. Some squads have a really long journey ahead of them, and so on. But we believe that we are agile where it matters. And we're probably doing some things right. According to a survey, glassdoor.com, we have the happiest employees you could have. Happier than Facebook and Google and Twitter and Apple. And, well, I don't know what's happened to HP lately. Anyone from HP here? Oh, sorry. And lastly, I want to show this picture. It's a Dilbert comic I stumbled upon. So Catbert, the evil director of human resources. We're jumping on the fad of giving employees unlimited vacation days. The only gating factor will be that knowledge that taking any time off whatsoever will torpedo your career. Yeah. So now our vacations will be a source of stress, only as much as you want. It's totally up to you. And the point with this is that a lot of people have been looking into Spotify and what we do. There's talking about the Spotify way, especially outside Spotify, actually, and from people like Jeff Sutherland. And we think that blindly copying what we do will probably not be the greatest fit for what you're doing. I mean, we have venture capitalist funding. We have lots of people and money, and we think long term. We can take big risks with lots of bets, and that's not necessarily true for the business you're operating. And remember that culture is bigger than process. So no matter what you try on a process level, if you don't have the culture and the intent to support it, it won't work. And people is greater than everything. So consider, what kind of organization do you want to be? What kind of organization do you need to be? And try to take a stand for that, and try to keep those intentions as you scale, if you want to grow and scale successfully and still be agile and lean. Thank you. Sorry, just one last sales plug. I also just finished a book about Kanban in action together with a former colleague. And if you use the code KanbanJS, you get 44% off this book or any other book at manning.com. So, thank you.
Any questions? Just a couple, not more, and we'll go to it. Pavel, you're not allowed questions.
Joakim, at the very end, you mentioned probably the most important thing, that the culture is the piece that makes it all work, and copying the whole thing. It's probably not the best idea, which is I believe you should stress more. But anyway, you mentioned also that people is bigger than everything, and as we know, then it said that bad system will defeat a good person every time. So what's your comment on that? Can you elaborate?
So who created the system?
People.
Thank you. And so on and so forth. But we actually had a good discussion about this. I think Håkan will be happy to elaborate more on that if you catch him later. What Deming meant was that 95% of the variation is due to the system, not the people. So people still matters a lot. And I think it's at the center of the system it should be to really take care of people and let them shine. So, sorry, a wishy-washy answer maybe. Any other questions? Or?
Yeah, I have a question. I think what I noticed that your investment in sharing the vision and communication is one of the key elements of success in your organization. I would like you to elaborate about these quarterly 3 days meetings, strategic meetings, product owners meetings. I mean, there are, as far as I understood, 200 people involved. How can you really manage this kind of proactively, this kind of meetings that, as far as I understood, are pretty key in defining the next quarter priority. So,
yeah.
How the relation between the two, in the product owner role versus the strategic.
So for the product days, for instance, we have all the product owners are representing the squads normally. There might be a few engineers as well, but most commonly the product owners talk a lot with their squads before going to the product days. And since they work daily and intimately with the squad, they are constantly communicating about these things. And the other people in the product days are product management people, other management people, managers from other sectors and so on. So I guess it's about 70 or 80 people nowadays. And in the beginning, when they were smaller, they were more like people presenting and discussing. And as we get bigger, we're more changing them to open space formats. Or presenting a buffet of these are different topics and areas we will discuss, and you go to the ones that you find interesting for you. But also, from all of these, when there are presentations, we videotape everything, and we make that available to all in staff. We have a town hall meeting following the product days where a summary is made. From this is the most important things that we discussed in product days. All the slides are made available, and the product area leads, there are 4 or 5 of them, actually makes a short video summary of 5 minutes of their area and so on. So we try to include and involve people like that. And it's not final in the product days, but you come quite a long way on this is probably what we want to work on the next quarter. And you present it to people, and they can then also fine-tune or chime in or adjust it.
And is there a relation with the strategic meeting, the 3-day strategic meeting?
No, not really. Yeah, completely separate. Yeah. Of course, they inform each other, but strategy is more long-term, I would say. Product is more about next quarter. And strategy is also not just product-related, but how do we want to organize ourselves, what challenges do we have, legal issues, and all that stuff.